Today, we're pulling back the curtain on RTM's approach to mergers and acquisitions and why it's different. You'll hear from Justin Ramirez, Director of Strategic Growth, and Rod Finkle, Director of Corporate Development. RTM started as a three-person firm in 1981 and began merging in 2012, not to chase deal counts, but to create real opportunities for people. Since then, they've welcomed partners through a courtship-style process that prioritizes culture fit, leadership style, and shared values over the spreadsheets. We'll talk about choosing qualitative over quantitative, how fear and control show up for owners, why RTM remains a flat, nimble, one firm, and yes, the honest oops stories and the moments that sharpened RTM's process. If you've ever wondered what it takes to merge without losing your soul, or what life after owning a business can really look like, you're listening to the right episode. I'm Katherine Jelinek, your host for Beyond Engineering, a podcast from RTM Engineering Consultants, where a genuine devotion to people and their passions empowers us to grow together, lead with integrity, and make a meaningful impact. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited today to get to be back with Justin Ramirez, the Director of Strategic Growth, and Rod Finkle, Director of Corporate Development at RTM. And today, our conversation is all around the why to RTM's approach to mergers and acquisitions, the real heart and soul of how RTM is different, the philosophy behind it, the history, and their current approach as it stands. So without further ado, let's dig into this conversation, Rod and Justin. How are
Okay.
you guys? Thanks for being here.
Doing great. Doing great. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so talk to us about the where it started and why. What's the history of this, Rod?
Yeah, I'll start there. Thank you, Catherine, again. So if you look back, RTM started in 1981. Ironically, it was the same year that my firm started. So seems to be some kindred spirit there with Ramesh. Um, but if you look back to where we started in the basement of a house and it stayed steady for 20 years, just three people. And somewhere in the early 2000s, they brought on the fourth member, which is our current CEO, Tony Merchandani. And Tony came to work, and he'll tell the story, but he came to work and he was really planning on only being there for 6 months. He was just coming in to help his dad out. But during that 6 month period of time, he fell in love with the industry. And he really fell in love with it because it's such a slow moving industry that any kind of little change can have a big impact on an engineering, architectural, construction type company. And over the course of the roughly 10 years, built the company up to about 40 people. And then he had a conversation with his dad because he realized that it was going to be hard to keep people there if they didn't provide more opportunities. Didn't want to grow just for growth's sake. And so he had a discussion with his dad and he said, Dad, I really like to grow this business. Um, and his dad said, fine. I'd kind of like to keep my clients over here. I love engineering. And Tony said, great, I'll let that happen. And that's true to this day. That has stayed there. So during the course of that, Tony realized that in order to grow the company at a rate at which it needs to continue to keep good people, there might have to be some form of acquisition. So in 2012, he brought the first company into the fold, and it was steady after that. But the why that he did that was to create this atmosphere of growth for the employees, so that you knew that you had a place that you could go. So an example of that is my company. My company was 40 people. We didn't acquire anybody. And so what happens is we got into a kind of a rut of where does that person go? Where do they grow to? What's the next step if they're not an owner of the company? And I think Tony wisely realized that. And that's what started that process to be able to move it forward. So the real why was for people to be able to have a place to grow.
Okay, real quick comment, and then Justin, let's weave you in. But you know what I love the most about this is that original, even first move was done with the spirit of how it's still done today, where Tony was like, Dad, you are like the engineer craftsman who just loves it so much. And I want you to just keep doing that. So sit
That's
there and enjoy it, right? And then Tony is naturally like, give me everything expansive. Like, where can we chase the horizon? You guys know him better than I do, but that's the sense I get. And in that moment of like, this is how we can grow, it was already just honoring the natural passions of father and son. And then it continued
perfect.
to echo out for everyone else. So it's so cool that that very act was doing that itself. Justin, how about you? Like, any thoughts on that original history?
Well, I
No,
think that's great.
yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. No, I mean, outside of the creation of opportunities and honestly building an environment where like-minded individuals can thrive, and when you put it into terms of RTM, that's where like-minded entrepreneurial spirits who want to grow, who want to have the opportunity to continue to expand their horizons, um, have a place. They're seated in a place where, and we'll get into it later a little bit more, but where they're passionate, where they create the most value with, let's call it minimal effort. But as we know, when you're working on something that you're truly passionate about, it doesn't really seem like much work at all, right?
I love that. And it started straight from the very beginning of this. Okay, so let's before we move through to like the next section in terms of talking about the history, what was RTM's pace for M&A? Like, what's the kind of historical pace
No,
that
really
we've
good
had so
question.
far?
Rod hit a little bit of it. I mean, we started in our team started in 2012 with his first merger. Since then to date, it's been around 21 mergers, all since 2012. So over the course of 13 years, um, as any strategic serial merging partner out there in the industry would be, they started off slow, right? One or two a year, and then got to the point of 3 to 4 a year, and where we're at now, four to six is what we're trying to keep track with, keep pace with. It's not, it's hard to measure success in M&A by number of total transactions. You could do one deal a year, and it could be better than 7 or 8 deals in a year. Just finding the right partners, finding the right people, finding the right mix. Um, that honestly has been the success of RTM, is keeping the qualitative aspects ahead of the quantitative aspects when assessing the right fit for our culture, leadership styles, et cetera. Getting into the like nitty gritty of it, and that takes a lot of time, and it's very intensive. But the fruits of it are vastly more expansive. So
Hmm.
It's a good point, Justin. And I think along those same lines. I don't know if the sense of urgency is two things. One is to keep good people and be able to bring good people on, retention as well as bringing on new people. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And we have shareholders. We have a large number of shareholders in the company. And in order to provide generational wealth for the shareholders and the rest of the company, it is important that not only are we acquisitive, but we're strategic, that we do it with a purpose. The sense of urgency is to continue growth from that standpoint as people. But like Justin indicated, there's not really a number that we're trying to do per year, number of transactions. It's more about do it purposely and intentful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of questions come to mind. So we're kind of moving into our questions all around like what makes RTM different, your philosophy, your process, that kind of thing. When you talk about qualitative over the quantitative, I'm totally hearing throughout all of this is deeply human and recognizing the quality of the people and wanting to have them part of the team and the culture. And then obviously this gives the people already a part of the team places that resonate to level up into and new opportunities, and it all matches. I so several things pop to mind. Number one is like, have you ever had an oops? Have you ever had a like, oops? You know what I mean? Maybe that's something that's tough to discuss. But then the other side of the question is, I'm pretty impressed that you're still, this many years in, oriented to the qualitative. And Rod, I love hearing you say, obviously wanting to create, this is a business, wanting to create the generational wealth. This is a huge part that steers us as well. because you haven't gotten wooed yet by like the way that it could be otherwise, right? Where it's all the qualitative and just kind of slicing and dicing. It's pretty incredible that you can continue to stay that course because the opportunities to get more that way are every single day. So it's a lot of things coming. It's not necessarily one clear question, but it's more of about how are you able to continue to stay true to that spirit, and have you wavered from it, and have there been course corrections and that kind of thing?
Justin, you want to take that?
It's a really good question. I'll go ahead and answer the latter part, and I'll leave the oops to Rod. Uh,
Okay.
Honestly, it starts with a strong commitment from leadership, and when you have a group of individuals, and I guess let me back up just for 1 second. Every partner that we merge with, every firm that we merge with, comes with merge partners. They come in, they become owners in RTM, right? They continue the legacy of their firm with the support and resources of RTM. So finding those right people, bringing them into the fold of let's call it a pure network within RTM, comprised of 70 plus individuals who have all hung their own shingle, operated their own firm, or wore the hats of an owner independently outside of a firm that oversaw everything administrative, right? They were in charge of the insurance, they were in charge of the billing, they were in charge of everything, invoicing, et cetera. That was their hat. To create the platform slash infrastructure or environment, if you will, that they can thrive in, you have to be focused on the qualitative aspects. And it's the people first, right? It's the people first mentality. It's the people first, teams first mentality, not ourselves. And when you focus on those aspects for as long as RTM has, right? It started at 40 FTE, it's continued on. A lot of success has been seen from it, and there's not a single inkling internally to divert from that. Why would we? It's the same reason when we merge with a firm that's been, wildly successful on their own. They found their own merit there, and they've done extremely well. We merge with them, and one of the common questions, well, what's changing? It's like, well, not much, we hope, because you've been great on your own already. Why would we want to come in and destroy any value or implement any extra hurdles or anything like that? We want to take what you've done, learn from it, perhaps enhance our side, also share with you what we're doing, and that enhancement can be mutually beneficial across both firms and provide a better environment for both teams. So it's hard to stay the course on it, but if you have leadership team and everyone else, even second, third, fourth, fifth tier, you just keep on trickling down all the way down to the bottom that stand behind it and committed to seeing that is the result of these outcomes or the result of these mergers, then it's really easy to kind of stay on track, because you kind of have a gut check at multiple levels throughout the organization. They're like, this is not going to work because of A, B, C, D, and D. So it's not just up to the key decision maker or makers to pull the trigger on moving forward with something. A lot of people have input here, and a lot of people have different perspectives, which is very good when you're trying to assess something as critical as bringing into the fold of a team of 50 to 100 or 150, bringing them into the mix, right?
Yeah.
Just when I add a little bit to that, Justin, you're dead on. I think the other piece of it that we forget about sometimes, we talk about it's about the people, and it certainly is. But I think it's easier for the employees to come on board sometimes than it is for the leadership of the company. So because that's a bigger transition for them. And so I'm going to preface this because I'm going to talk about a couple of oops. We have had a couple of oops. Nobody's
Good.
perfect. Um,
Yes.
um,
I'd be scared if you hadn't.
yeah, we certainly have, and I think it's going back to that discussion of when we talk to owners and they say, I want to be a part of this. I think the couple of oops that we have, they didn't really understand what does it mean to be a part of this. As business owners, you get so wrapped up into what you do on a day-to-day basis. There are many times that you don't think, what's beyond this? What's going to happen if I didn't have to do HR, if I didn't have to do insurance every year, if I didn't have to worry about, is there a paycheck coming in every day for these employees? They don't think beyond that, and rightfully so. I mean, they've been so ingrained in it for 10, 20, 30 years or whatever that time period is, that when we bring them on, they evolve into where their passion really is. The two oops that we had, one of them, we just didn't see it. There just wasn't a like-mindedness, and we thought that there was. I think that there was a difference in expectations on both sides. And the other one left a year later. He just changed his mind. I don't think I want to be in this business anymore. So
Mm,
it's not that that's not necessarily an oops because people are involved.
yes.
Everybody is different. Tony describes it so well. We're in the people business. We just do engineering. We just get paid for engineering. So that evaluation process that we go through when we're evaluating team members is just like when you're dealing with your family. Some of them will say something to you up front, and yet when I go home, it's something different the next day. But that's just two cases. And
Mhm.
what it's done for us is it has strengthened our process because our process, as Justin will talk a little bit about it, but it's basically a dating game. You're really trying to get in and understand what it is they want, what their passions are. And but you're dealing with a certain level inside the company. You don't get to deal with the rest of the company's employees because it's kind of a secret for a period of time. So we have had a couple of oops. Every company's going to have some oops.
Thank you, because recognizing the oops is, if you hadn't, there'd be something under the rug still, and I know that you all are more intentional than the majority by far about learning from mistakes. Like there's like that Tony's what is it? Why am I forgetting his phrase
Fail
of
fast.
like the dumb tax.
That's
And
okay.
like constantly wanting to like pool everybody's dumb taxes together so you can constantly go faster and learn more. All right. So, but Justin, yeah, go ahead and speak to what Rod was teasing up.
No, I mean you both are straight on point, and I mean the reality of it is for anybody in the tax profession, you get enough dumb tax together, you can hopefully get a couple tax credits at some point in the future.
Yeah, right. Get a few breaks.
But no, I mean Rod's right on point. I mean, in identifying these individuals and bringing them on board, and I agree. The oops are there, and you don't get to the size of where RTM, having done 21 transactions, without a couple of oops. But fortunately, with all the peer of partners that we have on board with us, overcoming those tend to be a little bit easier. I'm not going to say there's absolutely no friction in overcoming it. There's always friction in every oops, every mistake, but now it's all of us learning that lesson together, and even more eyes, 140 eyes now instead of 70 eyes, looking out for that next one. So
That's good. Before we dig in and talk about your process and how it's different and like dating and all, just want to chat about something that you were mentioning, Rod, to some degree. And I think that you were mentioning it as something that owners have a challenge with, whereas the employees do not. And it's such a real thing, this like moment where they shift from holding everything so tightly to getting to let go and just enjoy the part they want to and even shift if they want to. That's such a human thing when you're given a moment to shift your reality quite significantly, and it's you who's patterned so deeply with the other way that you bring it into your next chapter. Like that's a real thing. Like where it's like I'm just used to holding all the reins and carrying the whole thing, and that could be like a how many decades of doing that, but shifting that into a new perspective of like I can just enjoy my one piece. That's like not nothing. That's a huge human hurdle. Like speak to that a little bit, because you probably went through that. Perhaps, I mean, you were one of these owners, so, and I mean, obviously you jumped into something different pretty happily, but speak to it. Yeah.
One, I think there's two words that come to mind when I talk about this. One is control, and the other is fear.
Yeah.
What we can't control, we fear. And I think that as business owners, instinctively, good business owners like to be in control. And so when we talk about this transition piece, we try to be very careful that they're not giving anything up. They're getting something from it. I mean, it's like a marriage again. You're not You're not losing a daughter, you're gaining a daughter-in-law, sort of a thing. And I think
Mhm.
that's the most difficult and challenging part for owners is this release of, I don't have to do that. And if I didn't, what would I do? Would I do business development? Would I mentor? Would I just do plan review or whatever it is? If you're wearing 10 hats and all of a sudden you get to wear two, that is hard for some business owners to give it up. They don't know how to give it up. Whereas others, bam, it's gone. I don't have to do it anymore. I love what I do. What I like about RTM is that you are given the ability, you are giving the chance to remove those 8 hats. If you want to keep them, that's great. We have a back of house, so you're still probably not going to do HR and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to continue doing those, that's okay. But if you don't, here's what you could do. And you get to tell us what that is. You get to set those barriers of what it is you want to do. And that is the greatest challenge for the merging partners is, what do I want to do? To be able to take that time during the dating process to really sit down with your wife, sit down with your team and say, I'd really like to do this. And what I think is unique about RTM is that you are given that opportunity. Tony eats, sleeps, and breathes people getting to do their passion. And now, as we bring on these merging partners, they're eluding that as well. So I think that's the thing that's really unique about what we've established here. And again, it's not perfect because it's people. Some
Yeah.
people are going to make the change easily. Some people are not. It's going to take them a little bit, but that's okay. There's a place for all of them.
So, and just to underscore, that is the control and fear. Those are some of the most, I mean, not the most positive things, but they're part of human life. And those are
Absolutely.
really powerful forces. And I love that you're underscoring that because for any, prospective owner watching this, that is for them the biggest thing they're probably going to come up against when all of the check boxes are checked and all the basic things that must be done are getting done. That internal moment where they have to, after having decades of every ounce of time being spoken for, plus getting to look at that blank slate of freedom and choice, it's unnerving to feel that and have to actually stare that in the face and ask those questions of what do I really want to do? Like, not everybody can find that answer with ease and grace. So that's big stuff. Yeah.
I think I may have just actually woke up. It's like my coffee just hit me right now at 20 minutes.
Good. Welcome to the
Guys,
conversation, Justin.
I'm sorry. I go on vacation tomorrow. Last week was absolutely crazy, and but that comment there, Rod, has me just itching to ask this question. Why do you think? Why do you think that fear and control is the biggest issue in M&A? But well, actually, I guess I can rephrase it a little bit. I see a lot of similarities there from ownership transition experience, where fear and control still plays a very critical role in defining and actually executing on a successful internal succession plan. The same thing applies, and it's like this. This just hit me like a brick of walls. The same thing applies. Like they should be doing that. Firm owners, in order to preserve their legacy and preserve the continuity of their business and the opportunities for their teams, they should be. They should have a succession plan in place at all times in case the proverbial bus comes around the corner at the wrong time. Um, but they don't. They don't have it. And then when they get to the point of outpricing themselves where they can't transition internally because the value of the company has grown to such an astronomical point that employees can't afford to buy them out through an internal process, they have to look external. And then they get to the external and they still have the hard time answering, I want to do A, B, C, and D, and that's all I want to do. It's almost as, I know they haven't thought about it, but why do you think that is?
Well, let's go back to the internal transition. An internal transition still gives control to the owners all the way until they walk out the door. In fact, the name of the company doesn't even change typically. So there is still control in there, and they get to control that. They wrote the transition plan. So they wrote it in their favor and they wrote it in their employees' favor. And I think a lot of times what happened is when you talk about the merger, unless you're a sophisticated owner, you're not planning to sell your company the day you start it. It's evolving, and then after a period of time, you think to yourself, okay, I need to bring on a partner to be able to grow. And then the next phase of it is, you know what? I'm getting to be about 50, 55. I need to think about what's going to happen. And but if you've already started that transition period inside, there's no thought of selling it. Justin, there's a lot of companies that we talk to that until we talk to them, they're not thinking about selling it. We actually start the process of them thinking about what transition, whether it's internal, external, or walk away. We start
Wow.
that process for a lot of people, but I think part of the issue when we talk about these companies coming on board, it still goes back to the ownership of this control piece. When they come on board, they still want some form of control. We are human. We want to be able to control our destiny. It's just how do we do that, and what revelation do we find to be able to do that inside a company of 500 people? How do I maintain my control? Our number one objection for companies coming on board is I want control of my life. That's our number one objection. Sometimes it's money. Most of the time, it is not money. It is not about the money. Most of these people have been successful. It's about, I want control of my life. And so when they come on board, you have to find that. But you have to find it, but we're here to help you. But that's the biggest challenge. How do you find what you want to do in your life, and how do you keep that control so that you are still happy as an individual, still complacent?
Wow. I feel like we need to potentially have some therapists signed up that are a part of the conversation the whole time during the courtship process, because you were talking about a bigger human evolution. The fact that we, in the end, I mean, not to get too philosophical, but none of us are really ever in control. And there's always a bus that could come hit us in company, person, whatever, and the fact that, when they enter the company, there needs to be some way of creating that illusion of control so they don't have that internal, spin out. Wow, this is all so fascinating. Like
So I
what?
want to clarify something there too.
Hmm.
Is when we
Hmm.
talk about control, the fact that you're relieving some of the stress of your life, things you don't have to worry about, that gives you some control back
Yes,
that you
gives you a
didn't.
lot of time.
So
Right.
yeah, exactly. And in trying to figure out what you want to do with that time is where the challenge comes in. So I don't want to make it sound like it's common thread, but I will say that the majority of our owners are type A personalities. They're driven. They want it done their way. They've been successful doing it their way, so there's no reason to change.
Hmm.
Well, it's funny too, the piece of control, and you're right. I mean, that's kind of the main hiccups that we hear, at least the main causes for hesitation. Um, but then the other is, and it falls under control in a way. You know, I'm at the end of my rope, or I'm at the end of my runway, if you will, and I haven't reported to someone in 35, 40 years. What, I don't need a boss. Like I'm good. And I'll never forget Tony on a call, and he caught me completely off guard with it. He comes out and he goes, well, no, you report to somebody. Everybody reports to somebody, and everyone's accountable to someone. The reality of it is you're just not accountable, and you don't report to someone above you. Everyone below you, though, you report to them, and you work for them. That's who your bosses are, effectively. And he threw that out there, and I was just like, wow, okay, my man, you got it. Um, and then the other piece, though, too, is the flight organization. I mean, the big hiccup is, we have grown. Rod's been here from what was the company when you first joined, Rod, in 17?
162, I think.
So from 162 to 500 plus, Rod's been here to see it change, and been able to see the infrastructure that's been put in place that is relatively flat. So when Rod was having these conversations, Rod, you tell me if I'm wrong or not. This is just an assumption here, but when you were having the conversations with potential merging partners, um, at that point, I don't think RTM got that. Well, you're a big company, and there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy and hierarchy in place. So, we don't want any of that. But now, fast forward 2025, 500 plus, It's one of the very first things that we hear. It's like, well, we're used to moving fast. We're used to being nimble. We don't slow down, especially certain end markets. Certain end markets have to move a little quicker. And so they think, well, we're going to get in and we're just going to be slower, and we're going to be a cog in a wheel, and we're going to be trying to meet a certain financial performance metric quarter over quarter. And it's like, hey, we're one firm. We're all together here. We all win together. We all lose together. No profit centers. A lot of the control aspect stays with them in regard to their existing client relationships and the way that they do business. And Rod can go into a lot more detail on that. He's lived it, he's breathed it, he's integrated it here within RTM. But those are some of the main things. And that control aspect, it's a real thing. And it drives fear. Honestly, a loss of control drives the fear. So trying to figure out how to balance those two and talk with these individuals, talk with people on a human to human level, and understanding how do we make something out of nothing? Because when we're talking, there's nothing there. We got one firm here, another firm here. There's nothing there. How do we make something out of nothing? How do we bring that together to equal more than what we could have been on our own independently? So,
Okay, so lead us right into that now. Like, what is the process? Give us the dating process and how something gets made out of nothing.
so the easiest way to describe it is you're bringing in a partner into your firm. You're not just going to look at a resume, look them up online, say, okay, they're doing this, they've done this is their experience. Here's some of their successes that I can read about. I'll have a call with them. Okay, it was a pretty good call. All right, now he's hired. Now he's 50-50 owner in the company, and we're making business decisions, and we've got to withstand all the storms and all the sunny days, enjoy all the sunny days together. You're going to take your time making that decision before you give away 50% of your company. We're not giving away 50% of our company in any form or fashion, right? But the reality is they're coming on board and they're going to be an equity holder. They're going to be an owner in RTM. They're going to be a partner. So we treat them as such from the very first call. We're having discussions just like me and Rod have a discussion in the back office at, let's say, 2 a.m. with a bottle of scotch. We're talking, at a human level, not as put yourselves on a pedestal level or anyone's better than anybody else. We're all human here trying to do good and trying to create a positive impact as we go. So I phrase it effectively as like the organically charged M&A process, which is effectively a courtship process. We are dating to get married. You go on the first date, and I mean, you all know what your significant others, if you had asked about financials in the first date, you would family you have right now, especially if you met in college, because financials probably weren't there at all. So your dating pool got really slim really quickly at that point. But then, you go on that second date and you get to know them a little bit more. And it's, again, you're focusing on the qualitative aspects. How do they lead? How do they handle pressure? What's some trouble they came into and how they overcame it? All these things. You try to figure out who they are through their experiences that they've encountered throughout their lifetime. You keep on dating as long as you need to feel comfortable before you say, okay, this is pretty serious. Like I like you, you like me. Maybe we start a life together. Maybe we do look at a little bit of bank accounts. Maybe we check in on each other and see how you run your house and how do I run my house. Here are my rules. Here are your rules. Is there too much friction between them, or can we carve a couple of them out and make room for each other? Because in a relationship and in a marriage, that's what you have to continuously do. You have to grow with each other throughout the marriage. Otherwise, it fails. So change, being able to adapt from a leadership perspective, being able to adapt from a partnership perspective, just at the human level, honestly, being willing and able, mostly willing. Most people are able, not willing, but being willing to make those changes for your significant other, which goes from one in life to 70 something / 600 plus in the business, right? Trying to make sure that every decision you make is for the overall benefit for everyone, for the house together, the combined house. But yeah, so to finish out the process, and apologies, I digress. Effectively, we get to the point where it's like, okay, I want to get engaged to you, and we draft up some documents, and we put a promise ring on it, if you will, and now we're exclusive. Then we go into each other's house. We live with each other for a little bit. We test out the waters, so to speak. We meet the cousins, a couple of the cousins that are really close to the other, and then we start to meet a couple more, and a little bit of a trickle down effect there. And then next thing you know, everything's checked out. Everyone likes everybody. The background checks have cleared. There's no background checks, just for everyone listening, but background checks have cleared. Your cousin sister's girlfriend has done her Facebook check on the individual. They know that it's all good. But it comes down to the point of, all right, let's tie the knot and let's get married and let's be partners forever. And that's a commitment. That is a commitment that we hold true to ourselves. We hold true to our core values there in establishing that commitment. And we continue to persevere with those individuals come hell or high water, because we went through the process and we've decided together, it's not one way, right? We've all decided together that we're going to commit to this vision. We're going to commit to this partnership, and we're going to see it through.
Yeah. I think, one thing, Catherine, it's important what Justin just said is that our process is not for everyone, and it's unique. There are many companies that we've talked to that don't want to go through this process. And so, because it takes a period of time, it's not done in 30 days, not done in 60 days. Sometimes it's a year just to be able to go. It just varies with the team that we're working with. And so that is unique about us, and it's not for everyone. But I think that what we're trying to do is to eliminate or reduce the oops. We're trying to make sure that we catch that kind of stuff and that they understand us. They may want to back out too, because it's just not a good fit. Tony describes it as, I always red flags, a reason not to do the deal. And I think that's brilliant. I really do. Because, a lot of times you're going in, you're trying to make things work. You say, oh, this is going to work. When in reality, you should be looking at the opposite. What doesn't make this work? And can we get past that? If we can't, let's just kill the deal.
Sorry, Catherine, I'm going to jump because that's a great point. We don't want to be like everyone else. So we're not for everyone. We're not creating something that fits a mold or fits a box or checks a box. We're more than that. We view it from a perspective of everyone defines their own incentive. Everyone writes their own future, that next chapter, when they think that they're at the end of the book, but then they just got gifted this 50 more blank pages and a pen full of ink. They get to continue to write the story, right? Like, it's when they had no aspiration of even doing that or an inkling of, I want to put that much time or effort into anything else because I've already done it for all these years. It's phenomenal to watch it unfold. It really is. And to the point here, the point is that it still continues down. And you mentioned it earlier, what Tony's vision was when he started here as the fourth employee. He came entrepreneurial spirited, worst engineer in the company, self-declared worst engineer in the company. But he has the background from the tech world. He has, and Rod touched on it earlier, is that, the AEC industry, but we're focusing on engineering specifically, is slow to change, slow to adapt. What he learned from tech and from his other ventures that he went into prior to being the fourth employee at RTM was that they move fast. Other industries move fast. They take change on the chin. If it fails, it's okay. Pick it up, move to the next. That's the entrepreneurial spirit, right? Being able to inject the mentality of, it's okay to try something new. And by the way, these other industries out there are doing this little piece here, maybe 2% of what they're doing successfully, that we can implement internally here to really achieve fast-paced growth, accelerate us, if you will. And there's other factors that come into it, but being able to understand that and continue to employ that throughout these years has really gotten RTM from 0 to 1,000 really quickly. Not 1,000 FTE, but pace-wise, just thousands quickly. So there's a lot of tie-in there from how it started, why it started, and how it's continuing to grow through those very same reasons, which honestly, a lot of firms lose that along the way. Why they started a business. They started it for A, B, C, D, and E. as they've grown, they get more of those hats that Rod's talked about. They kind of got to take a little bit of the aspirations off the shelf, or put the aspirations on the shelf a little bit, because their time's focused in on other things. And then when you ask them, and I love this question when I talk with potential partners, I'm like, hey, why did you start the company? And are you still running the company because of that? Is that what motivates you every day? And it's not typically a thing. It's like, oh, I haven't thought about that in 35 years. Like, no, I don't know. I haven't even thought about that. No,
Therapy starts right there.
right there.
That's right.
Why is that?
This whole process, watch out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Showing the cards
Before
here.
we move forward into our last section, I want to just ask, okay, so say I'm an owner, I'm listening to this. I hear your courtship process. It makes sense to me. I'm a human's human. But what is the usual then? If I don't know and I haven't been thinking about it, like you've talked to me about yours, what's the usual that you're kind of compared against? And give it the brief so we have enough time to wrap her up.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of talking. I'll let Rod run it, and I'll fill in any gaps on the on one of the alternatives from a broker-led side if he wants to pass that.
You probably see more of this than I do, but I will say that because we look at full integration into our company, that lengthens our process. I think the normal is a lot of companies that don't integrate, they're just looking for another profit center. They're just looking for another company out there. And I'm not talking about anybody specifically. I'm just saying it is another alternative for companies that are trying to grow. So that's the worst of the worst in my mind. Not that it is, but be able to go out there and find a company that can be a profit center, and you bring them on board in 30 to 60 days. In other words, you have a phone call with them. Hey, you guys are worth this. Let's go. Let's get it done and come on board in 30 to 60 days. You just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll do the books for you. In that model, you don't need to have all of the due diligence that we have, because we're actually trying to have people interact with people inside their studios on a day-to-day basis. Our Florida team works with our Seattle team, works with our Denver team on a day-to-day basis, versus Florida team, just work by yourselves. Do your own marketing, do all that. You don't need that process that we go through. So that's the other side of the coin. And obviously there's hybrids in between there, but that's the two.
That's the quantitative versus the qualitative. Okay, so then moving into our final section, we're talking about the passions, people, and culture. So what is on the other side of being a part of the RTM team? And Justin, there was something you said once about how it's a think tank. And I love that so much, because it's the idea that you aren't, obviously it's you're one independent of many, but you're cross-pollinating, right? That's what Tony does so well, and he's woven it into the culture. When what you were speaking to about like how he's nearly cross-pollinating from other industries, bringing ideas into yours, but then it's woven into your culture to cross-pollinate wisdom and understanding and knowledge from different firms and leaders, and share that. So yeah, just speak to the what
I don't
it
know that I
is
need to.
that
I
you
don't think
do.
you need to go any deeper than that. I mean, honestly, all I got to do is tag along. Like our merged partners, that what she just said applies to them.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. But it's more than that, obviously, right? Because they cross pollinate with each other first, and then you think about it like the reason for that is effectively growth, and that's the catalyst for it is cross pollination. And then you look at it. Now you have all these individuals that have learned from each other, all these partners that have learned from each other, that have gone through different experiences and different geographies and different markets and different services. Just keep on going. Then that really just truly starts to go down into those that they're mentoring, and those that they're working with, and those that they're coaching. And then that continues to flow through into the clients, and the way that we treat them, and the way that we work with them, the way that we collaborate versus tell, or just receive, right? You can get a little bit of both on both sides, but we're right there in that middle where we're a collaborative effort to ensure the success of a project. And honestly, I can stop here, because the real answer to this is in Rod's pocket. I mean, he came on board. He can answer all of this. So I'm going to step off the podium and let him have it.
Yeah, Rod, speak from the experience of having done that, how that felt, or what it seemed like. Step off
So
the
we
podium.
came on board about, oh gosh, it's been 7 years ago. Every company's different. Mine was, I'm going to consider us naive with regard to this type of a transaction. We always thought we were going to do it internally, and things just weren't going to work out in order for that to happen. So when we went through this process, we probably talked to 7 to 9 different companies. And I laugh about this today because I said Tony had me a hello because it was an
I love that.
immediate cultural understanding. I think that as a business owner, one thing that if you really care about your people as a business owner, what you want to make sure of is that there's a legacy. And the legacy is not you, and it's not the name of the company. It's the fact that it's perpetuating on itself. It's sustainable. It can keep going. That these employees bring on other employees, bring on other employees, or bring on other people and people and people. And I think that's the thing that we struggled with that a little bit as we were going through our transition piece because we all had different motivations for wanting to move, and we all had kind of different time frames as well. But I think the one thing that we came to the conclusion on was we can do what we want to do if we go on board with RTM. We have the ability, and they've given us the control to do that, to be able to, when we come on board. And I'll give you a prime example. One of my partners, um, extremely good engineer. I mean, they were all good engineers, but this guy really knew engineering with regard to hotels, hospitality, an industry leader, but yet he still had to do the HR. He still had to do employee evaluations. He still had to do all that stuff. And that was not his favorite thing to do. In all honesty, it wasn't. He just wanted to be an engineer, but he wanted to be an owner. So when he came on board, when we were going through this process, 2 years, he was going to stay on for 2 years. January of this year, he retired. And even now, I'm not sure he's fully retired, but he was able to come on board and do engineering. He'd
Mm.
worked in the hospitality market, and he's like I said, he's a leader in the industry. So to have all that other stuff off, that burden off of you, you go home at night and you're doing what you love, and you come back the next day and you get to do what you love versus today I got to spend half a day doing this stuff that I hate with a passion. That was the revelation for us on why RTM. Because we talked to other companies, and other companies, one of them wanted us to be a platform for them. Another one wanted us just because we were in a specific industry or a specific market. But when we came on board, it was more like, here's an opportunity to continue doing what you're doing, except now we're going to give you resources. We're going to give you 20 other people that can back up what you need help with. And we're going to give you another 20 people that can help you go to market, etc. So it was more about we were joining a family than we were joining a corporation. So it was 162 after we came in. So there was roughly 132 or 140, something like that, prior to us coming in. That was 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the size of my company. So it was still corporate when we looked at it like that, but it really wasn't because it was so horizontal. And I laugh today because I think that Tony's message is stronger today than it was the day that I came in.
Hmm.
And a lot of it is because he, his message has transgressed because now we have other partners who have evolved into, we're all about this. We're behind you. Let's go. Let's go. So I think that's been the outcome of what has happened. I do have one regret, Raldo, and that's that we didn't do it 10 years earlier. So other than that, though, the transition piece that we went through and the discussions that we went through, that process has not changed. It is exactly the same today as it was when we came in. We were number 7 in the number of transactions that we've done, and nothing has changed. It's just gotten better. It's gotten more involved into learning the personalities of the people that we bring in.
Don't think there's a better way for us to bring to light what it's like to be on the inside of this think tank cross-pollination ecosystem that you have. So that's a perfect way to essentially wrap this up. But I want to just go back to each of you for just a last piece of any closing reflections and a closing appreciation.
Justin, you want to go?
Yeah, put it on them.
My closing reflection is I wish I had done this either 2 weeks earlier or after vacation because I am burnt out right now. I need a little bit of reprieve right now. No, it's a great conversation. It's a wonderful topic. I feel a little bit bad that I wasn't able to bring the energy that was required today to kind of help keep it going. Next time though, we've got more opportunities.
You're
Um,
doing great, Justin.
the just overall reflection is there there's no such thing as a wrong answer when it comes to exploring an opportunity. Explore your options. There's like Rod said earlier, effectively three routes for a let's call it a normal firm. Um, that that is either internal, external, or close the doors. Right? ESOP's not there. IPO going public's not there. Um, there's other things you can potentially do, but those are the main three that you want to focus on. So don't say no just yet. Answer the phone or be responsive and at least hear what the opportunity is. And I know many of them out there have heard the same thing over and over again. They're getting called and emailed numerous times a week. And so the answer is no because they answered a phone, they answered a call or responded to someone 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and they talked with that one person, and it's like, no, it's terrible. They're all like that, so we're not ever going to do it. It's off the table now. Just like the industry is progressing, those that are employing M&A as a growth tactic are also progressing. So what they heard 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or even last year, it could very well and most likely will be different today. Appreciation wise, Catherine, I always appreciate you for hosting these, doing such a wonderful job.
That doesn't count. You've got to appreciate something else. Doesn't count.
I appreciate this industry, and I appreciate the opportunities it's provided for me and my family. That's what I appreciate.
Wonderful.
That's good. That's really good. I think from my standpoint, because I was so naive when I went into this process as a business owner, my message to business owners is consider what you want to do. Consider what you want to do now and what you want to do in 5 years and what you want to do in 10 years. At least have that internal discussion yourself. You don't have to figure anything out right now, but start the process. Don't wait until you're 60 years old and you have nothing left in your company to sell. I had one of those cases come up about 2 years ago. And the guy was 65, 70 years old, and there was 5 people left in the company. There was nothing there. So unless you want to walk away, just think about it earlier in time. Think about it when you're 50, 55, or whatever that number is for you. My words of encouragement are just think about what you want to do. You don't have to have the answers, but seek the answers. Go out and get some advice on what to do. With regard to appreciation, I appreciate so much the opportunity that I was given to have life after owning a business.
I love that.
A lot of people are not given that opportunity, and I appreciate all the people that I work with. Justin, Tony, Rich Clark, with the whole executive team. I love working with them, and I appreciate them every day. Every day.
My final reflection is that you all need to build a course called Life After Owning a Business and run people through the psychological human side and the other side of like assessing their options, and the fact that that is not given as a course of what one needs to start thinking about, and it kind of comes upon people. Like, thank you for this episode. And a huge appreciation of mine is what Rod, you said, where Tony's message and intention from the beginning only has gotten stronger today. And it's really beautiful to actually see that in reality when I can have these conversations and see it so naturally and organically coming from each individual, from their own self. But they're so thrilled to be a part of this where it resonates as well. So yeah, it's a pleasure to have these conversations. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. Stay tuned for the next episode, and feel free to send comments or ideas on what you'd want to learn about, especially regarding to M&A for future episodes. And thank you both again, Rod and Justin, for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Engineering, a podcast from RTM Engineering Consultants. To be notified of future episodes and to watch past episodes, please follow Beyond Engineering on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Until next time.